Okay. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, I always like to check I'm going live to everywhere that I need to go live to before I kick things off, and so that I don't start a stream with halfway through a sentence because I think I've already been live. It's better to be late than early in this scenario. Thank you so much, everyone who's tuning in tonight. Tonight's a little bit about the Outturn preview, if you like. It's a look at what Outturn is tomorrow. I'm going to have a chat through some of the casks. I'm going to take your questions live in the thread here, of course, and then we'll go from there. So I've got an Outturn in front of me. If you have a physical copy, you can follow along with your physical copy, of course. If you don't have a physical copy, you can always just hold your PDF up. All the places, Robert says. I like that you're checking that for me, Rob, because I am certainly not. But that's okay. It's a chance for me to get things wrong first and then get them right. Okay, fantastic. There's just making sure that's all streaming in. Fantastic. Nick Husek, Darren Howie, Rob Akers, Othmar, Yuri, Suzuki-san, Sam Lacardi. Good to see you all. So tomorrow is Friday Outturn. It's the first Friday of every month except Christmas. So our Christmas edition, our big bumper festive edition, I should say, is a November-December edition, which is usually around mid-November. Just to make sure that I'm getting that right, and we are planning ahead a fair bit at the moment, which is important. But you can probably bet that Outturn for the festive edition will fall around the 13th this year. Last year, I think it was the 15th or 16th. It'll be the 13th this year, which works. So that's fine. There's 2 things on my desk. There's 3 things on my desk. 3 things. 4 things. How good do the new membership cards look? I just want to show that off. That's all. They've got the monogram on them. They just arrived. So we've got the new monogram membership cards. Most new members are already getting these. Of course, they'll have your name printed on it. This is just a blank one. But that's exciting. I've also got a Sharpie. We'll need that. And I've got Outturn. You can use this as well at home. And I've got a dram. Of course, don't start anything without a dram. Okay. First thing I want to make mention of tomorrow. This is not a massive stream. This is just taking your questions. This is actually looping in a few things here so that we've got a sense of what tomorrow is all about. And I'm going to talk through each cask a little bit. The other night, if you go back through the live streams, I previewed I Like Big Butts, which is the malt of the month. That's really exciting. That's malt of the month. I talked about that in detail. It's a sherried, peated, fun whiskey. And I should check that out. That's also ridiculously well priced. Sounds like story time with Matt, says Rob. Look, it may as well be. I feel like that's what it is already. Okay, let's jump in, shall we? So we got the contents page, of course, and the list of the bottlings. We love doing this part, by the way. I've got to say, Susie and I especially love all the flavor profiles and casks underneath each one listed in here because it's a nice, quick first page glance of what is in Outturn. Othmar asks, hey, Matt, hope you've been well. When does the Outturn go live? Othmar, good question. The answer is midday on the first Friday of every month. Midday AEST, so midday Sydney, Melbourne time. I always forget the time differences on Adelaide and Brisbane, but very close to that. Obviously, it's half an hour for Adelaide and Brisbane. I think you guys are an hour. Like, I can't remember, sorry. I don't know everyone's daylight savings, and I don't even remember them all, sorry. But I do know that it's midday Australian Eastern Standard Time, first Friday of every month, midday, it goes live. So if there's a bottling you're really after, midday is the time to log on. If there's one that you are pondering on that you don't mind if you miss, then you can log in later. But some bottlings, as members have seen, do sell out sometimes in seconds. And I mean that. Like we had a bottling even just a few months back, 2 months back, where there was even look at last month. Look at the May Outturn, the festival bottlings gone in seconds. Some of them vanished. The fastest selling bottling, by the way, for those playing along at home, was the 10.188 New Acquaintance. That was by far the most popular release. But I hope that answers your question. Alex Moores, Dan Woolley, good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's the night before Outturn tonight, so I'm talking through the releases. Going to talk through some of the tips on how to score that whiskey you're after and what's in this Outturn for tomorrow. Cellar Master's note is next. I talked about contents just then. Cellar Master's note is next. Now, our Cellar Master is Andrew Durbridge. If you've not met Andrew yet in person, you absolutely should. And if you've seen him online, he's online a lot as well. He also writes a incredible blog. Isn't really the right word for it. He's not like most bloggers. I'm going to call him a proper whiskey writer. He absolutely is. And if you look at what he's written, have a look at Whiskey and Wisdom, it's called. It's his blog that he writes. It's not affiliated or associated with the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, but as he's our cellar master and he writes great whiskey content, there's a trove of good reading in there. I was reading that blog more than 5 years ago before I was even at the society. I learned so much off his blog. I've learned so much off Andrew as a person as well, from his tastings, from what I've learned from him. And it's always good to have someone like that in your life. And I hope that I've imparted that knowledge to others as well in my journey, and I hope to continue to do so. I don't want to get too wrapped up in this tonight, but you know what I'm saying. There's an opportunity for us to learn from the whiskey community and pass that knowledge on. Where was I going? Cellar Master's note. Andrew is our cellar master. He looks after all of our stock, our orders, our allocations, our taste, our panel work. So he looks at panel work. He's our resident panel beater. No. I don't. That's a terrible joke. But look, it's a really his read is often quite Cellar Master's note is often quite contemplative at the moment. It's the last few he's written have been great. They've been topical. They've been contemplative about the broad view of things, and it's every month he writes that. Zeno Wolf, good to see you. Yes, Rob Akers is correct. An award-winning whiskey writer. He won the Icons of Whiskey whiskey communicator. I can't even say the word communicating. There you go. I'm not even communicating very well. He won the Whiskey Communicator of the Year award for 2020, which is the same awards that I won the Scotch Whiskey Ambassador of the Year. So I'm super pumped about that as well. But it's great to have 2 Icon Award winners in the one company, and I'd say the one club, the one family, which is what we are. Next page is Malt of the Month. Malt of the Month is something that Andrew picks out, which is a special whiskey, which he knows is going to have at least some good quantity, is a good quality, of course. It's past panel, and it is also something that we've got enough of that we can share around at a good price. That's really all the parameters of Malt of the Month are. It's a chance for us to share some good whiskey. It's often something, I'll be honest, I mean, Malt of the Month is often, not always. It's not fair to say this really, but it's often on the more accessible side of things, both in price and in profile. So you'll find it's something that is, you can jump into as a new member, you can jump into as an existing member, but it's one that is fun. If you're on a bit of a budget this month, you sort of like want to grab that one whiskey, grab that one. That's my tip on that. Okay. Let's move to the next page. Now, 71.70. I got to ask a great question from member Irina earlier today. She asks, could you please talk about the 71.70? Also, the young and sprightly flavor profile. She was a bit on the fence about this one. She's not sure about it, but she wants to get it for another reason. She wants to get it because of the distillation date of the 1st of November. So let's have a look at this. We've only got 12 bottles of it to go around. It's a space side. It's a first fill bourbon barrel. It's called Rubbed with Fragrant Body Oils. That sounds pretty sensual to me. And it's 71.70 on the code. That means it's the 71st distillery to join the society, and this is the 70th cask in 36 years that we've bottled from this distillery. So not really many. It's less than 2 a year, really. It's a younger whiskey, which means it falls into the young and sprightly category. I've seen young and sprightly as high as 12 years old, though. We had a 93 something about a year ago called something cleaning cupboard, something cleaning cupboard, which was it was a Campbelltown whiskey. It was a 12-year-old Campbelltown in the young and sprightly. The age does not determine the flavor profile. Neither does the cask type. Neither does the spirit type. It's more about what the flavor of that whiskey is. The focus of the society is always on flavor. So when you see this one, it's young and sprightly, but that means it's young, but it's also got it's sprightly in its character. It's not so much about the age statement. So this is Irina asked about to talk a little bit more about this one. This distillery is one of those distilleries where their spirit character is unbelievably fruity and unbelievably delicious. I love their spirit character. I mean, I could say that about any distillery, but I can't, because there's a number of distilleries where their distillery character for me does not suit my palate, but this one does suit mine. It does say in there, aroma suggested rose-scented soap and bath time, flower gardens, dried apples, apricots, bit of hot chili and ginger. You're going to get a little bit of heat in the whiskey of this. It's 61.8%. It's 7 years old. It will appreciate a drop of water. It is one of those whiskeys that is a bit like floral bath salts kind of whiskey. And I love my young whiskeys. I really do. Many of the whiskeys in my collection are younger whiskeys. I think that you're getting that perfect, especially if it's the first fill barrel. Especially if it's the first fill. You're getting that lovely balance of first fill, imparting so much flavor in 7 years. 7 years is not a long time for Scotch whiskey. It's a moderate amount of time for American whiskey. It's a long time for Australian whiskey. So there's all sorts of parameters there. But ignoring that for a second, I mean, it's sort of like it's almost like a pink cake in a glass. And we've had some great younger whiskeys from distilleries like 66, 53, 26. And you get this amazing balance of flavor. And it's also a great price. So expect sort of sponge cake, lavender, rose-scented soaps, etc. It's going to be one of those whiskeys that is quite fruit forward, but more sort of like white sugar fruits. Lovely stuff. So there you go. Even if you want to buy it because of the distillation date, Irina, that's the one to go for. The one after that, however, Sweet Fruity Mellow, A Dreamer's Dram. I did have an empty of it sitting in my office, not a full. 134.7. This is a relatively new distillery for us. It falls into these later codes that we're seeing now. 134 is a distillery in India, and this was matured entirely, monsoonally aged, I should add, in India. So this was matured entirely in India and bottled in Scotland. So the mature spirit was shipped over to Scotland to be filled into our glass stock, then be shipped around the world to members in different branches. It's one of 215 bottles from the whole cask, a second fill ex-bourbon barrel, and it's an Indian single cask whiskey there. So something very cool there in the fact that it's single cask Indian whiskey that is high proof. And like I said, it's the notes that I got on this one. I'm not going to even look at these notes, but the notes I got on this were honestly like that sort of like grilled tuna steak I said the other night, and notes of like sort of like really rich biscuity notes, which I love in a whiskey. That savory, almost like a digestive biscuit, that savory biscuit note. But it's a special whiskey. There have been you don't really see too much presence from this distillery in Australia. Bits and bobs here and there. I wish we saw more. That's going to put that. I'm going to put that there. Okay, where are we going to next? Next distillery, next cask. Here we go. 20.25. This is a distillery that no longer exists. So there's already quite a list building for the ballot on this. Of course, the ballot isn't drawn. I'm going to get the date right here. Did we put the date on this? I don't think we did. Anyway, lesson learned. Okay, but this is called, it's a Vaults collection. My God, it's full of stars. Now, I did have a bottle sitting in my office for a short while, but I had to return it to the warehouse. Of course, still sealed. This is a 30-year-old whiskey I like to say it's the notes in these kind of whiskeys are kind of like, as I say, estery, vibrant kind of notes, and you're getting a taste of it. Absolutely otherworldly whiskey here. You're tasting something from a distillate that no longer exists, and that alone is very cool. Yes, Nicholas, I will talk about those. I will talk, but when you get to 22.5, you're getting into a realm of whiskey that is those proper otherworldly flavors. And when I say estery, I mean sort of like that sort of almost vaporescent kind of notes. I don't know how to best describe that. There's kind of like there's so much going on there. A bit of bubble gum, bit of juicy fruits, but it sort of sits in that realm of when whiskey gets really old and stately, but not being encumbered by cask. And I know I talk about this a fair bit on live streams about whiskeys that are often a little bit too much oak influence. This has had 30 years in, I think, a refill barrel. So it's a refill. Hashtag team refill, of course, team refill. So at that proof, 47.5, that's 47.5% natural cask strength after 30 years of aging. So for us to get even this kind of stock from a closed distillery, and I want to make mention here of something. I'm going to make mention of this twice in this evening. Pardon me. I think it's actually tremendously good value for a demolished 30-year-old single cask strength whiskey. You might agree with me, you might disagree. That's fine. To give you an example, there was a release of this whiskey, which is a 25-year-old, which is about 5 years ago or something, that was not cask strength, that was not single cask, and it was about $4,500. So you do the maths, and I can guarantee you this is an absolute banger of a whiskey. So if you want something that is estery, light, and those beautiful old school vapors of old wood and old spirit, that's the one to go for. I'm not going to talk too much about strawberry jalapeno ice cream because that's a repeat whiskey from our May outturn. There's nothing wrong with repeats. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It means we had some good stock. We get to carry it over to the next month. And obviously last month, a lot of people were focusing on the festival releases. However, don't pass them up. Pass them up at your own peril. We do often get the opportunity to feature a whiskey twice. For instance, Back to the Future, 53.319. That's a 13-year-old Isla whiskey from the festival's releases. I'm pretty sure there's still a few left online. Maybe just a few, a handful. I don't know at the moment off the top of my head. And Lisa says, I've got a meeting that's guaranteed to run over the scheduled 12 p.m. finish tomorrow. So annoyed. I need to plan better in future. And Lisa, is that meeting in person or online? Because I'm sure you could open another window sneakily and buy on Outturn if you're just on Zoom. I could be doing that right now, and you don't know because I'm still facing the camera. So if it's a Zoom meeting, you might get away with it. I don't know. Jordan Simcock says, very excited about trying this one if I'm lucky enough to be drawn. Jordan, you've got to be in it to win it. And we've got 5 bottles, and we've got a list of people wanting one of those 5. The names are completely drawn randomly. So best of luck. And Irina says the super old bottles that came out mid-month, the 41.80 and the 66-something. Where did they come from? Very good question, Irina. Okay, before I press on with Outturn, I'm going to answer that question. We had 2 bottles of 41.80 and 1 bottle of a 66.90, and I think there was 1 or 2 other things on the site. What happened there was that we actually went, Susie and I, mostly Susie, went through our warehouse and did a bit of a cleanup. Like, what's this sitting? And there's, a mixture of stock. There's, of course, the current stuff that's going out in Outturn. There's the upcoming, which is June Outturn and a bit of July. And bits and bobs like that sitting in our warehouse, and the tasting packs and the membership boxes and things like that. That membership box there, which we've got a special deal coming up on. Actually, don't worry about that right now, but it'll be announced soon. But so we go through the warehouse and we're doing a bit of a cleanup. It's like, what have we got? And we found a box with that stock in it. It's like, oh, well, that was there was obviously either a promotion or a leftover bottle or a miscount along the way. And you find these things sometimes in the warehouse, and you just go, well, what do we do with it? It's old label livery, but it's still very cool stock, of course. And so we just put it up on the website. It's like, we made no announcement of it because if you announce that you're putting up 3 bottles, they're going to vanish in seconds anyway. So, and then you just get frustrated members that you send out an email about it and they didn't know about it, and it's gone before the email's even fully sent out to all the members. So we just made a decision just to go, no, put them up on the site. And we do that sometimes. We sometimes get stock that we don't put in Outturn that doesn't even appear at an event. We just put it on the site because often we might not have many of them. We have 6 or 12 or 18 bottles or something. We go, well, we'll just put it up on the website. So it's well worth checking the site periodically, just here and there. If you find something special, you often will. And we put them up because they were sitting in the warehouse. And by the way, as well, one of those whiskeys, I think the 66.90 is from years ago, like 2016 or something, 2017, no, 16, I think. So it's like almost 5 years ago that whiskey came out, and we released it at the same price it was 5 years ago. There's no sort of like, oh, it's worth more now. Probably is. It doesn't matter. It's about doing best by our members. So it went up on the site. Hope that answers your question, Irina. Annalisa says, unfortunately, I'm facilitating it. Win some, lose some. Annalisa, look, I mean, if you get a chance to jump on after your meeting finishes, you probably might be able to nab still what you're after. Annalisa says, Pro Hack, recurring meeting first Friday of every month called something like Urgent Planning DND. Yes, I have a meeting at 11:55 every Friday, first Friday of every month. Yeah, a special deal on membership boxes. I know what I'm buying next. The old label stuff sold out. Yeah, Zeno, hold off on the membership box purchase just yet. That's my little pro tip, because we've got a special on the membership boxes coming up. I think it's our mid-month this month, so it's only a week or so away or more. David, good to hear, mate. That sounds like a good gift. Strawberry jalapeno is lovely. We're loving the bottles we have. Exactly, Annalisa. That's the thing. As I've said before, there's often sleepers in Outturns, whiskies that might not vanish in the first 30 seconds, and they get to hang around a bit. And we even might get to feature them the following month. Nothing wrong with them. They've been past panel. They're often incredible whiskies. So the only reason why they hang around because lots of people focusing on the festival ones, And so sometimes there might be one or two left or a handful left of other ones. And that's fine. That's the way it goes. Love the strategy. Look, it's not really a strategy. It's just sort of, well, I mean, we either I open it and drink it or Andrew opens it and drinks it. You know what I mean? Like this, we're going to do something with it. Got my 35.228 as a random restock. Very happy. Yeah, Rory, exactly. This is what I mean. Like, sometimes stuff just goes out of stock and reappears. It does happen. It might be a case of, look, there's lots of reasons. There's lots of reasons into allocations and movement of stock that I won't bore you with right now, but that's one of them. Yeah, the 63.60 went up a few weeks ago, and it went up, and it was dearly departed, then 2, I think, reappeared. So that does happen. What's a membership box? Irina. This is the membership box. Now, it's an optional add-on when you start your society membership journey. And it's actually a UK design award winner from a few years back. And you open this up, and you have a nice tasting book and info book in the front there, your society lapel pin up the top there, and then open the door over here, and you've got 3 single cask 100ml bottles from 3 different distilleries, 3 different flavor profiles. I don't know if my camera's catching all that, but there you go. It's a nice way to sort of have a good introduction to the society, if you like, a nice way to sort of jump in with something and share it around. There. There you go. Newbie learning. Yeah, no, everyone's learning. This is great. Like, Annalisa, you're a very new member, and this is why I'm glad you're able to watch this now to pick up on what this tonight is. Tonight's about Outturn tips, how to make the most of Outturn. And that's what that's what tonight is about. There's a few articles on our website if you want to read them, how to make the most of Outturn, what the society does differently. We put them in the bottom of the email that you got about Outturn as well. But if you want to learn about it through me telling you some tips, which you'll probably learn a bit more here, because we don't put them all on the website. Look, there you go. I recently killed my 41.80. Great whiskey. Classic barley meets oak, I think the name of that was. That was a good example of where sherry and sherry casks and spirit and the Spirit Distillery 41 is a banger, met right in the middle really nicely on that one. Back to the Sutra is a ripper example of sleepers. Yeah, I can't believe there's any of that left, to be honest. I know we get a lot of 53, so it's sort of like, and 53 was also a malt of the month. So it's like, well, a little bit older though, this one, a little bit older, but we have another 53 coming shortly, which is a much older 53, which is very exciting as well. So variation of stock even across one code is always exciting. Good call on 10.188, by the way. Thanks. Needed some air and some time, but then chef's kiss. Yeah, it's a funny one, Martin, isn't it? It also, the funny thing about 10.188 is that, yes, it needs a bit of air, but I tell you what, it drinks so well at that proof. It's a high proof whiskey. It was like 62 point something %, but it drank like it was just liquid gold for me. Didn't need a drop of water, which is fascinating integration right there. Those membership box whiskeys are the ultimate sleepers. So often they're hidden gems in there. Yeah, they are hidden gems. And unfortunately, we often get asked questions from members after they buy the box of, oh, I just tasted, whatever, 41.901 or whatever, 41.91 or whatever the code was in the box. Is it available as a full bottle? And the answer is always no, I'm afraid. The casks that you see in those boxes are often bottled, almost always bottled for the boxes around the world. So, yeah, anyway, sorry about that. So moving right along, we're moving into the deep, rich, and dried fruits page here. If you're following along at home, it's page 1011 that we're on right now on Outturn. Deep, rich, and dried fruits is a popular flavor profile. It's often the rich sherried whiskeys, rich wine cask whiskeys. And again, we've even seen refill bourbon hogsheads in deep, rich, and dried fruits. It's not determined on cask. It's determined on flavor. Focus on flavor. That's all it's about. 30.109, strangely soothing. It's a first fill whiskey, 12 years entirely in an Oloroso sherry butt. So big outturn of 600 and something bottles, 30 available tomorrow online at midday at 64.9%. Now, as Andrew made a comment about last Friday, a lot of distilleries that we're seeing being bottled at even higher proofs than before. Their fill strengths are higher than what they used to be. This distillery, Distillery 30, is a prime example of that. They fill at about 69.9%, which changes the spirit profile. but gives it a much richer, spicier profile at the end of spirit there. But it's held up very nicely after 12 years. Even a line like this, it says, take off your slippers. The open fire has nearly gone out, but the embers are still glowing. You see, that's the kind of whiskey it is. And I love whiskeys that have almost like, that can transport you to another time and place. And that immediately made me think that tasting note just then made me think of being at the fireplace in Jenolan Caves. Huge shout out to anyone who knows exactly what I'm talking about, of the hotel there at Jenolan Caves and the fireplace downstairs and the Chesterfields on a cold evening. That feeling was what I got as soon as I read that. I was like, that's going to be a tasty whiskey. I'll be honest, I've not tasted that one. As Andrew said also on Friday, we don't get the opportunity to open everything in Outturn. If we did, you'd miss out on so many bottles because they'd be open already and we can't sell them. So that hopefully helps, by the way. A lot of 53 because Mr. I think you meant to say Mr. Consistent, not Mr. Considered, but it's a very good point there. Mr. C, of course. Then we move to 35.250. Again, hugely good value in the older age statement here. At $340, it's only 12 bottles around. So very small Outturn. It's only going to be 11 bottles because Whiskey and Helmet took one and they did them into those little pouches. First fill bourbon barrel, 23 years old. Old whiskey carries a certain sort of wow factor to it. I know I said before I like my younger whiskeys, and I do, but whiskeys like this often have a like I say, bathing in brandy is a name on it. Sorry, think heavy wax, heavy banana and guava, rich soft fruits as it says, ripe pears, mango, watermelon, aged cider. You get the different notes are different. It's just a different whiskey. Older whiskey is not better than younger whiskey. It's different. It's older. It's not younger. I've had some whiskeys. Shout out to anyone who remembers G13.1. G13.1, a complete revelation. It was a 4-year-old Japanese grain whiskey that was positively pink in the glass and tasted like rich, old, like aged vanilla ice cream or something in the glass. It was unbelievable stuff. So don't think of age as the determining factor of quality ever, if you can, because it's not. We know exactly what you're talking about. We're mad keen cavers. I'm good to hear, Annalisa. I loved caving. It was a lot of fun. It's not something I would say I'm mad keen on. In fact, I got a little bit claustrophobic at one point. You know, on one of those caves where you're absolutely wedged through this thing, and it's one of the hard grade ones, and it's like, ah. But I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it. But it was it's full on. Sally Lau, good to see you. I hope you're well, Sally. Okay, so let's moving on. Now, this is where we jump into the probably one of the rarest whiskeys we've ever offered up. Ever. So it's called, we wrote at the top, known beyond all others for the article. And we write, some distilleries are made for blends. Some are made for single malts. Some are known far and wide, but there is one distillery that is known beyond all others, and that is Distillery 24. The rolling hills of this new distillery, of course, are much different from the yesteryear of what the East Yarralchies estate used to look like. A very old school, traditional distillery, part of the Edgington group these days. This is a 30-year-old full maturation single cask whiskey from a refill sherry cask. So it's going to have that lovely old stately note. There is an interesting note in here. I mean, this is sherried 30-year-old 24. It says here, there's a line in here which blows me away. We're a long way from the days of old for this distillery, but we're also closer to its true, stodgy, thick, and lovable heart. This distillery does a very narrow cut of their spirit. It's one of the reasons why their quality is renowned for what it is. They're very persistent, I would say, with maintaining a narrow cut off the stills. Creates a very narrow cut of the spirit. It's a very loved spirit quality. Their new make quality is unbelievably tasty. I can say that because I have had the opportunity to taste it, which has been great. But this is one of those distilleries that age absolutely benefits it. And if you would, again, it's hard to make comparisons of single cask sherried whiskey from this distillery, but this is one that is obviously obscenely rare and is one of the rarest whiskeys, if not one the rarest whiskey I think we've ever offered up. So this is kind of exciting. Greg Lowry says, I love my 24s, dropping kidneys off to make the bounty on this one. Look, I'll be honest, it is not that is not a impulse purchase. I wouldn't say it's one that you go, oh yeah, I'll just grab one of those because it's Thursday afternoon. It's one that it obviously needs to be considered, and with Outturn having a week now in your inboxes or in your mailboxes or in your hand, you've had an option, you've had an idea to consider it now, which is great. I don't really know how. I haven't had a chance to actually taste this yet, and I doubt that I actually ever will. Only because it's like, it's only 12 bottles in the country, and if one of the members who buys one does indeed open it, which I hope they do, because this is going to be a ripper to open and drink and share on a special occasion. And when I would open it, if I was buying one of these for myself, I would open this as soon as restrictions are lifted. Let's put it that way. A good occasion would be that restrictions are done. Tim, yes, Tim, I saw your thread in another group about the you've been on a buying spree. You can take a month off, mate. It's fine. Looks at the bank account. That's a no can do for me. Look, it's not a cheap whiskey, but then again, once you factor in what it actually is, I think it was about $4,500 for the last time I saw a 30-year-old from this distillery. This distillery commands a high price point. And the supply price of the casks to the society is obviously reflected there, and it's all as it is. And there's plenty of right places, Janelle. Nothing like a great scotch at the end of a tough day squeezing through tiny spaces. Oh yes, that first sip of a whiskey after a long day of caving was something special. I packed a couple of bottles nicely away for that. Needs to be shared, absolutely, Rob. It's one of those whiskeys that this is the kind of whiskey you'd open, I guess, for a special occasion. One that you'd want to savor with friends who would appreciate it, who understand what 1980s distillate that has spent its entire life slumbering away in a refill sherry cask. I mean, bourbon casks from this distillery are expensive. Sherry casks, basically unobtainable. So for us to be able to get some means that the distillery trusts us to look after their brand and their story. And it's more about our story of being able to present this as a single cask for our members. So anyway, something very cool there. Very cool indeed. The wife considered it, and then I got told no. Rory, I'm sorry to hear that, mate. Look, like I said, it's a tough one to swallow, I guess, but it's also something that this just doesn't exist anymore. It certainly doesn't exist at that price anymore. It's often 2-3 times that. Moving right along, I Dream of Creamy. Here we go. It's a Highland whiskey. It's from the region of Wick in Scotland. First fill Sauternes Barrique. So it was 11 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead before a full year's maturation in an ex-Sauternes cask. Is anyone here a fan of Sauternes? I love a good Sauternes. It's very hard to get really nice Sauternes, though, without absolutely breaking an arm and a leg for it. But when you do find, I've got a good friend of mine. He's a massive wine nerd. He is as nerdy on wine as I am to whiskey. Let's put it that way. And he's got his house he's sort of crammed in different Vintech wine cabinets all over the house. One under the kitchen bench, one in the bedroom, one in the living room, one in the hallway, all with different temperatures for different wines and that kind of thing. And he is a massive Sauternes fiend. And he's very graciously shared some Sauternes with me over the years, and I've loved them. But it's a great wine, and it imparts an incredibly sweet and interesting character to the spirit. Not too many of those to go around because we sacrificed 4 or 5 of those bottles. I can't remember. I think it was 4. We sacrificed 4 or 5, or maybe 5 for the tasting packs, which I'm going to get to. I promise I'll get there. Love us Sauternes. Annalisa, Robert, yeah, absolutely. Question from hashtag Team Refill, absolutely. Alex Moores asks, Matt, was that 24 cask procured relatively recently or a sleeper in the Society's own stocks? Alex, that's a really good question. That was from our stocks, but we purchased it quite late in the game, as I would say. I think it was purchased at something like 20-something years old, but it's from it's our own stocks. Absolutely. Zeno says you can take the boy out of Wick, but you can't take the Wick out of the boy. He's referring to a, well, more aptly a fart joke, but it's true. Chateau Yakem, sadly, can't afford it these days. And absolutely. Back of a member's shed. yeah. First discovered them with Aaron. Yes. Aaron did a bunch of Sauternes finishes. Some distilleries have really done quite a few. Some have played around with it. This distillery, 52, have never done it, but it's cool that the society has now. We don't do things by the book, as you know. But that's going to be I have tasted that one. It's an exciting coastal sweetness to it. And again, that one actually really does appreciate a drop of water as well. Out and About. I have not tried this yet, but I do like this distillery because this distillery is a bit of a no-name. And some of my favorite whiskeys come from no-name distilleries. They come from the blending houses, the ones that don't have a single malt range really to speak of. These guys have one core range bottling. They literally just call it, I think, Altavan. It's one bottling, and it's usually peated. It's lightly peated. It goes into. It's mostly for blending, but it's again small allocation of that one. But it would be one of those brisk, lovely peated, non-Isla peated whiskeys that I often rave about. Take your top off, Dula. Who let you in here? It's too cold for that, Dula. Come on. First discovered them with Aaron. Yeah, sorry, I just said that. There's a bottle name, back of a member's shed. Yeah, I mean, if we found a cask at the back of a member's shed that we bottled as a society cask, that would be a pretty cool name for it. More Chenin Blanc casks, please. Yes, Rob, I know what you're talking about. You just totaled your bottle of 35.179 formula flavor, I think the name of it was, which was an from an ex-Chenin Blanc. There was a bunch of 35s through ex-Chenin Blanc and ex-Chardonnay first fill full maturation casks. That is, of course, as we talked about that at the night on that night in Melbourne about the history of that distillery, its connection to French wineries, and its and how that was an era of whiskey production that I don't think we'll see again for some time. But which is not a bad thing. It's just, well, it is a bad thing. Let's be honest. But it's also it was an era of experimentation that I think was and that contributed to so many projects and so many core range releases down the years. For those who remember the Glenmurray Chardonnay finish, the Glenmurray Chardonnay cask, which when it originally came out was full Chardonnay maturation. That was a happy accident, as Dr. Lumsden said. It was their sandbox for all those projects that we end up seeing then at Glenmorangie. And for private label releases for Astar, there's all sorts of history there, which I love. I love that stuff. But more on that another time. More on that another night. I've talked about it before, but it's kind of cool. And we do have some 35s coming, actually, which you're going to like, Robert, later in the year. So probably closer to Christmas. Yeah, there we go. More Chenin Blanc, yes. Okay. Slubbing Billy and Spotted Dick. This is a refeature. We've seen this before, but I'm always going to talk well of 93s. In fact, I just bought one myself. 3 a.m. Doner Kebabs. One I just bought for myself because I think it's great whiskey. Teenage or even young distillery, Campbelltown Distillery 93. My great whiskey. And the people there are lovely. Back to the future. We sort of just touched on that already. A little extravagant. R1.5. R1.5. We don't get too many rums. When we do, they are, I think, overlooked a little bit, if I'm being honest. It's a whiskey club. I get that. Therefore, we when we get the opportunity to release single cask strength cognacs, armagnacs, bourbons, rums, bourbons are whiskey. You know what I mean? Then it's often like, what do you spend your money on? It's like, well, I want to get. You got to try that rum. That rum is fantastic. Don't be put off by things like in the tasting notes of wood glue and nail varnish, nail polish remover. Those are classic Jamaican notes. If you know what those notes are in rum and you love them, you'll love this. This is I always put sort of rum into sort of 3 categories in my head, and broadly speaking. One is the agricole style rums and rums, which are very much like fresh cut sugarcane style rums, often unaged. We don't bottle these, but that's one sort of style. The second style, rum nerds are going to hate me for even categorizing them like this, but I don't care. The second style I broadly categorize as this style, the Jamaican ones, which are estery. They're wood gluey. They've got a real sense of taste of spirit and a real sense of character to them. I love them. And then there's a third category, which is a much sweeter style rums. Travelers, Flor de Caña, places like that, Nicaraguan rums, a lot of some Jamaican rums, but a lot of non-Jamaican rums, Barbados rums, etc. Trinidadian rums, especially, quite sweet. Quite a dark rum sweetness to them. And then, of course, there's navel rum. But anyway, we'll talk rum another night. But that's a lovely rum if you like the R1s, which is the first rum distillery with the society being R1, which is rather cool. Let me grab some more questions. I'm down for 2. The R1 have all been great. Yeah, look, the R1s are bangers, Rory. I mean, if you remember some of the early R1s, and you will, Rory, you've been a member long enough, they were massive. Oh, if I recall correctly, there was an R1 with a proof of like 81.2% or 78.8% or something silly like that. Anyway, they were hard work. GN 3.3 times 2. Yeah. Well, that's been up for a little while, Rory. You can grab them anytime. And of course, if you order them tonight, Susie will consolidate your shipping and you only pay one shipping. She's good like that. So that GN 3.3 is already on the website. Make the Medellin go down. Very funny, very funny. Angus, I reckon, labeled that one. This is it's a second fill bourbon barrel gin. It's a barrel matured gin. So cask strength barrel matured gin, which is rather cool. Barrel matured gins make for great cocktails, make great on their own, great with tonic. Very versatile. Have obviously another layer of flavor on top of the juniper and the botanicals. That's the word I'm looking for. So there you go. That's available anyway. I mean, that's as and when you want it. That's the full list of bottlings I've been talking about for the last 42 minutes. I also encourage you to read Lachlan's article called Your Dram Your Way. It's been very popular online, that one. Lindor's Abbey, which was my chat last night with Scott Mansfield. Have a read of that. That's fascinating. I'm blown away by that article, actually. A Trip to Oban, which is Jenny Forrest wrote for us as well, which is a lovely sort of travel journal, if you like. It makes you feel like we're all not in sort of isolation a little bit. And then and my ambassador's address, which I write every month. It's just, again, a bit of fluff, bit of reading. And then events. Now, Nick Husek asked before, weird, wacky, and wonderful virtual tasting. Let's talk about that pack. Now, I've got the samples just up here, over there, and they are 5 samples. It's got 134.7, which is in this Outturn, 112.51, which is not in this Outturn, 52.31, which is in the Outturn, R1.5, which is, and 16.44, which is not. The whiskies that are not in the Outturn will be made available at the time of the tasting. So the 26th of June is when those whiskies will go on the website. There's very few of some of them. If I recall correctly, and don't quote me on this, but it's like 6 or 7 bottles of that 16 because we had to use the rest in pouring the samples. And the same for 112.51, I think it's about 6 or 7. Not many. So they'll be made available at the time of the tasting or just after we start. We'll announce it and then they'll go live on the site. So if you want to grab those bottles when they go live, they'll go live when they go live. I hope that makes sense. Real thick and heavy, not sweet, very workshop. Not sweet, very workshop. Yeah, Zeno, you're right. That rum is thick and heavy. It's not very workshoppy notes. It's more like workshop notes. It's very like sort of workhorse Jamaican distillery notes. I would call that flavor profile like the Campbelltown of rum. And I know that's actually I'd call R7 the Campbelltown of rums, but we don't see too many R7s. We only had maybe 3, I think. But R1s are in that similar vein, though. It's also Jamaican rum distillery that make that very industrious, gluey, quite like varnishy notes, which I love in rum. That's my preferred style. I don't overly go for the big sweet ones myself, but I understand that people love them, and so there you go. Yeah, Ian, I'd love to expand more on rums one night with you. Look, I'm happy to talk about whatever spirit we want to discuss. The only spirit I really know not much about at all is tequila, so luckily we don't bottle any of that. I know enough about tequila, but not enough to talk about it for an hour. I look forward to hearing you expand on rums. I will. I absolutely will. R1.4 is my favorite. Yeah, awesome. Seamus Carroll joined. Good to see you, mate. Jay Davis joined. Good to see you. And it's not a weird and wacky tasting without a 112. Bam! I couldn't agree more. That 112 is actually a lot of fun. Funky Irie feeling. I'll tell you why it's a lot of fun. Here's something for you. It's extra matured in an ex-rum cask, right? The ex-rum cask that it was extra matured in is a Society R code. I'll have to look up which one it was, but we'll know on the night, on the 26th, don't worry. But it was an ex-Society rum cask that it was extra matured in. So it's from a Society cask to a Society cask for extra maturation, then bottled. That's very cool. I think that's very cool, rather than just like some rum cask we found. No, it was rum that we bottled. Jordan says, I bought the gin last month to share life. Too aggressive for her, but I loved it. Look, they are everything, Jordan, everything we bottle is cask strength. Maybe she needs to work up to cask strength. Maybe there's a way you can introduce how to get there, and maybe you can add a bit of water to the gin, or maybe add a bit of ice to it. I mean, however you want to enjoy, however you enjoy your gin, it's often a little bit more versatile in the enjoyment sometimes. It is up to you. But I wouldn't jump in the deep end with it if I don't know how used to cask strength she is. If I know it's I certainly wasn't used to cask strength when I first got into it. Of course, no one is. You got to move up to it, but it's 50.3. It's not a ball breaker. It's not a real sort of punch in the face proof. We've certainly seen higher than that before. Yeah, I'll definitely talk about rums. Sorry, we'll do that like next week. It's don't be scared off by the percentage of the rums. Yeah, don't be scared off. 50.3 is like I say, it's even that's what do you call that? Gunpowder proof, naval proof gin, not naval. What's the word for it again? What's cask strength gin called again? I'm having a mental blank on that one. Do you often sell out of the tasting kit? Would love to join in. Jordan, they go on sale this Friday, tomorrow. The tasting kit goes on sale tomorrow. There it is, Weird, Wacky, and Wonderful Virtual Tasting. That's the page for it there, the events page. The pack goes on sale tomorrow, which is the 5th. Anyway, should have just looked on the front. Goes on sale tomorrow, Friday the 5th of June at midday. The last pack we did last month sold out in a minute or two. So, yes, they do sell very quickly. I don't know if this one will be as fast, because that was a festival kit, and festival kits are always going to be popular. But I hope this one sells well, because obviously we've got so much effort to bottle it up for members to enjoy. And they come in these nice little glass sample bottles like these ones up here, and they're nicely labeled. They come in a nice box. The photos are up on our social media. You get to see them all. But it's a real good way for you to jump in and join the tasting. Evening says, James Finnegan, sorry, there's some comments here I missed on the other page. Andrew Cuff says, Brisbane is in the same time zone until daylight savings kicks in. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Andrew. No doubt saving then. Matt, when is the ballot instructions for that this month? Couldn't find anything in Outturn. Darren, you are right. We missed one detail there. That is my mistake. The ballot is drawn the Friday after Outturn. So you've still got a week and a day to get in for that 20.25. The ballot is drawn the week after Outturn, generally speaking. That's at least what we meant to say. Make a cocktail of gin. Absolutely, Rob. Rory says, get her the Botanist. Great gin. Yeah, it is a great gin. Botanist is a great stepping stone gin, I like to say. There's a lot of gins out there. The Botanist is a very good one. Othmar says, SMWS Mezcal when? Don't hold your breath. We're going to stick with what we do well at the moment. Navy Cut. Yeah, is it Navy Cut naval gin? I can't remember. There's another phrase for it, though. Anyway, that's not important. It's what it is. It's cask strength gin. There you go. Pardon me. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm going to call it a night there. That's my full run through of Outturn. It's always fun. It's always every month. It's always the first Friday at midday of every month, except for Christmas. There's some fantastic bottlings to savor in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bottlings plus a tasting kit available from tomorrow at midday. If you're not a member of the society yet and you're wishing to join and learn more, you can join and get membership as late as now for tomorrow's Outturn. So there's no waiting period. 20.25 is on ballot. 24.139 is limit one per person, but otherwise everything else is fair game. And of course, pack your membership pack into the same order. The $99 membership, tasting pack, the tasting kit on the back page there. Pack that into your Outturn order and save on freight. Double win. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Ian, Annalisa, Imperial Proof, Navy Strength. Yeah, look, There's another word for it. I haven't found it yet. I may have already said it. I don't know. Navy strength. Yeah, Navy strength, Sam says. Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean. Okay. That's all for me tonight. In the meantime, safe dramming, happy dramming, safe travels. You know what I mean. And I'll see you all tomorrow's Outturn. And Friday night drinks are on Zoom tomorrow night. The link will be up on the group tomorrow morning. See you all for Friday night drinks tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Cheers.